Hello, my name is Edwin Hamadi, Assistant Vice President for the Residential Experience. We're excited to have you come back on campus and have some guidance on a safe return. As you know, safety is a very important part of the CC experience. And in order to increase our safety for our CC family and the Colorado Springs community, we have some information we would like to share with you today and answer some questions. However, prior to talking to our panelists, I want to review some of the move-in procedures that were emailed out on Friday. This email outlines some of the steps regarding what needs to happen prior to your arrival, once you arrive on campus, and specific move-in processes. So really quickly, before I go to our illustrious panel, I will summarize quickly some of the emails. So prior to arriving on campus, you will need to fill out the COVID-19 campus course. That is important information that will help you ensure that you are safe while you're on campus. There was a survey that was filled out or that was sent out on September 11th, that last Friday, on where you are living. Please fill that out because that provides information on COVID tracing. It could have an impact on financial aid and is how we will find out about where you are living and if you're coming back on campus. Be sure to conduct all your shopping prior to arrival so you can move in your residence halls, get tested, move in your residence halls, and follow the enhanced social distancing protocols. Once you are here, you will stop by the Hibble Center and conduct your tests. Again, the email is very specific in terms of how to register for My Health Connection account and have very specific information on being sure that you could go through that process as quickly as possible. After testing, you'll be going to your area's front desk to check in. And then that evening, you'll have a chance to meet your RA and have a virtual meeting to welcome you back to campus and to discuss other things that are relevant to the Florida community. Again, it is very important that you follow the enhanced social distancing procedures while you're awaiting your COVID test results. So now that I have quickly reviewed some of the emails that was sent out to you, it is my pleasure to introduce our illustrious panel of experts. Heather Horton is the director of the Student Health and Wellbeing and Wellness Resource Center. Rochelle Taylor is our manager of the Housing and Conference Services and our expert in regards to supplemental housing, roommates, and anything housing assignments related. Keith Beck is our manager for maintenance and projects. He was responsible for assisting with the move-out process and is very knowledgeable about storage and other maintenance type concerns or projects out there. All right, so with that, one question that had popped up is about a question about, let's see, so if someone is unable to move in on the 17th and 18th dates, is there another opportunity, or what are their options that they have if they can't make those dates? And I will throw that out to anyone, or I could answer that myself.
Well, I can answer the testing part of that question. So if you are moving in on, say, the 19th or the 20th, you can still schedule through the My Health Connection UC Health app. There will be mass testing available on that Saturday and Sunday, so you can schedule there. If for some reason you were coming back on, say, Monday the 21st or something like that, then you're going to call the Student Health Center and arrange to go there for your testing. So whenever you come, we'll get you tested. I know it feels like a stressful process, but we'll meet your needs there and get you ready to move in.
Yeah, the other important thing to emphasize is that if you are wanting to move in outside of the 17th and 18th timeline, please talk to your RLC so they can work with your specific situation. Again, our goal is to get everybody back on the 17th and 18th because that is the majority of testing hours that we have for our students that are coming on campus with that. So there is a question about charges. So if somebody, Rochelle, if somebody is wanting to just move in for block 2 only, will they be charged for the entire semester in regards to housing and meals?
We really don't have the capacity to bill just by block typically. However, if we are able to find space for students, we will be able to do that, and we think for sure that we'll be able to do that this year. You may not get the assignment that you were assigned last spring, but we will make sure that you get into a space where you can stay for just a 3.5-week period and check in and check out, and we will make those adjustments to your housing billing through student accounts.
Okay. Keith, there was a question that somebody had asked about their items are packed and stored in the glass house basement. What is the process for them to retrieve their items and in sort of a timely fashion?
Yes, if the students would email, the ccmoveout@coloradocollege.edu, then we can get them scheduled a time to link up with them, meet them wherever their belongings might be located, and they can pick them up and get everything back to their room. Again, if they just email us at ccmoveout@coloradocollege.edu, we can schedule that for them.
Okay. Heather, there's some questions about COVID testing. If somebody tests positive for COVID, can you really talk about sort of what that process is like in terms of what to do next?
Sure. And we hope that this doesn't happen for you, but if you were to get a positive COVID test, then you're going to be contacted by our campus contact tracing team. You'll be assigned an isolation room. And the way that it works is if you test positive for COVID, then you'll need to go into isolation for at least 10 days. And if you're asymptomatic, so you haven't had any symptoms, but you test positive, it would be 10 days from that date of testing. If you've had symptoms, then it's 10 days from the date that symptoms emerged. And it is 10 days and resolution of symptoms. So that's at least 24 hours after those 10 days that you have been symptom-free, no fever, and other symptoms are improving. If you never develop symptoms, then it would just be those 10 days after that. Then also the Student Health Center is going to be contacting you every day just to check in, make sure that you're doing all right, see if there's health care that you need, and they'll be working with you to determine when your release from isolation would occur. You'd also be getting contacted every day from our contact tracing team. We'll be talking to you not only about symptoms that you might be experiencing, how you're doing, how you're feeling emotionally, what kinds of needs you might have there, connecting you with the counseling center or other resources if you need, and also talking with you about your academics. If you're in isolation or quarantine, you can maintain your engagement with your academics as long as you're able to. So they'll be checking in with you and making sure that you have all of those needs met. Typically, if you have a positive COVID test, you're going to be assigned an isolation room in one of our supplemental housing off campus. And there are lots of folks that are going to work with you to make sure that you're doing okay. And 10 days or 14 days sounds like a long time, but in talking with students, it goes a little bit faster than you might imagine.
Yeah, so sort of along the same vein, Heather, could you talk a little bit about sort of the philosophy regarding testing in terms of it being sort of a snapshot, because there are some questions that ask about, can I leave campus to go shopping after I get tested? Can parents or friends come and visit me? You know, what does this experience look like? And so I think if you philosophically talk about what testing looks like, that might assist them.
Sure. Yes. So a given COVID test is a snapshot of your essentially viral load status at that moment in time. And certainly you can get a negative result on a COVID test, but actually still have COVID. And so it's always important, regardless of your test results, to continue to maintain the risk mitigation procedures and processes that we have in place, like wearing a mask, social distancing, washing your hands, cleaning things, trying to limit your contact with possible exposures. So certainly once you've left the enhanced social distancing protocols, then you can do things. But again, we want for people to try to limit their exposure as much as possible. Because if I go somewhere, say to a restaurant, and I'm hanging out with people, or I'm going to a park with folks and hanging out with them, then I'm bringing that potential exposure back to campus. And so the philosophy really is that we're trying to, with the random sample testing, we're trying to get a snapshot of what's happening on campus, and certainly be able to potentially identify people who have a positive COVID exposure but are not yet symptomatic. But again, any test result, we're going to still continue to maintain our engagement with our risk mitigation processes.
Okay, thank you. So Rochelle, there is a question that was asked about roommate changes. So there was a student that had the original roommate that was assigned to them was not taking online or taking on campus in-person classes, and wants to live with someone that is taking that has been approved to be on campus. Can you explain the process of how would they go about living together?
So if they can name a roommate, if they already know someone that they'd like to share a room with, we'll always accommodate that. We're doing a paperless room reassignment process this year, so we would be able to work with them and that student to connect them and move one to one room or one to the other. If they haven't identified someone that they want to be a roommate with, but they're just interested in doing that, we actually have a wait list that students submit their interest on, and then we take a look at that. We look at the preferences that these students have, just like we would at any other time, and kind of judge what the compatibility would be. We then introduce those students to one another and give them the opportunity to say yay or nay if they'd like to connect and be roommates for fall semester.
Great, thank you. Keith, can you talk a little bit about what type of cleaning might be, cleaning or sanitation stations are available out there within the on-campus housing?
Yes, we currently have sanitation stations in the big three, Loomis, Matthias, and South Hall in the lobby areas. And we are working towards putting in more hand sanitizers on the different floors in the residence halls. That's a long process and a lot of hanging up of the hand sanitizers, that type of thing. Our janitorial custodial service, Sedesco, is in the halls cleaning on a daily basis, removing trash, and they are also doing extra cleaning of the high touch point areas within the halls. And on the apartments and cottages and those types of things, the students will be cleaning themselves in their own apartment style living, as Sedesco doesn't go in there daily. But overall, we have disinfectant kits that they can sign out from the front desk if they would like additional cleaning supplies for their rooms and feel that they need to do that. And we will replenish those supplies as well.
Great, thank you. There was a question about a student had asked, they work on campus. They were asking if they can work during their wait period in order to get their test results, or should they request that time off and be able to work after on campus after their test results. And so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what the enhanced social distancing and protocol might be looking like.
Sure. When you come to campus and until you get your test results, you're asked to essentially stay at home in your room, really just going out of your room to get food pickup, to obviously go to the bathroom and things like that, and to exercise by yourself outside. So you'll have to wait to start work until you do get your test results back. The folks at UC Health want us to make sure that you're prepared for a wait as long as 3 to 5 days for test results to come back. But I will say that our test results have been coming back much more quickly than that. But then we can be pleasantly surprised, right? If you get your results back in 48 hours instead of 3 days, you'll be excited and you can let your employer know at that point in time.
Right. Thank you. So Rochelle, there's a question about supplemental housing. So if somebody was assigned to one of the supplemental housing units, can you talk a little bit about what that process looks like? Or is it a very similar move-in process, or how do they go about getting moving into that unit?
So current housing has notified those supplemental housing communities when students will be arriving. So they're aware of the process that we're going through now to identify students and the dates that they'll be arriving. And so they will be there and ready to hand keys over to students who are assigned to their units and help them with any kind of move-in. Some of them also have their own protocols. West Edge has, they want you to unload at a specific point close to your apartment. They only want one person to be there to help you as well, just like it is here at CC. So you will be notified, depending on which unit you're working in, how to contact those people and how to schedule your move-in.
Sure. You kind of touched on a point that a question was asked about the fall break period, and during the Thanksgiving break period, what are students allowed to do? Can they have go off site to have a meal with family? Are they restricted in terms of not being able to go out and about? I know we kind of addressed that a little bit, but I think more specifically, is there any concerns about what they can or can't do during that break period? And I will toss that out to whoever wants to take a stab at that.
Oh, I think I would refer to the initial direction when we first opened with COVID-19, that students that leave the state for this Thanksgiving or fall break would not be allowed to come back. However, yeah, you can leave campus and go have a meal with your family, or someone in the community that you want to spend some time with. I don't think students are being restrained at that pace, but we do ask that they don't leave state.
Right. So, sort of a little bit of a tangent on that question. If somebody is wanting to start maybe block 3 and block 4, and they're coming from out of state or just all over the country, is that allowed? What is that process? If it is allowed, what does that process look like for move-in, for testing, for everything like that?
I do think that there will be students who will be in that situation. I don't imagine there will be a lot of them, but we have always had a process. I mean, for instance, there are study abroad programs that are block 1 and 2, and students don't arrive until block 3. So we do expect that there will be students who for one reason or another won't come until block 3. they would not be charged for housing until they step foot on campus. And then Heather would have to tell them how they go through the whole testing and protocols and how that would work and how they put those two things together.
Right. And the testing will operate really pretty similarly in that we would ask folks to go and get tested before moving in. And so you'll need to work with your RLC to figure out when is a good time to arrive. And then for folks who are arriving, say, third block, then you'll need to call the Student Health Center and arrange a time with them to do the testing, and then you'll be able to move in. So it should be pretty similar, just to people.
Good. So it sounds like, despite the fact that we are summarizing the mass move-in, what that process looks like, that if somebody has a very unique and specific situation, there is always sort of a workaround or some type of assistance that we can provide. So thank you for that. There's a question, Rochelle, about apartment meal plans. If somebody had signed up for an apartment meal plan, can they change that? Can they opt out of that now, or what's that process look like?
Typically, when someone wants to, so there are some opportunities, or there is a way to not have to do any meal plan. That's a committee, and students reach out and say why they can't or why they shouldn't have to be on a meal plan. And then we work with dining or the accessibility resources to see if we can make that happen for them. The apartment meal plan, I have heard from students and parents who have students that are perhaps living in apartments for the first time and would prefer to have the larger meal plan or the standard meal plan so that they know that students are able to eat. That can also be done. You work through student accounts who can change that for you from the apartment meal plan to the standard meal plan, giving a student more opportunities to eat from Rastel or from our dining facility to make sure that they're eating and their studies aren't standing in the way of that while they try to cook for themselves.
Okay, so that committee they could request and potentially could be able to opt out depending upon what their reasons are. So
yeah, and again, back to those exceptions. There are exceptions occasionally that we definitely will give students an opportunity, and sometimes it has to do with dietary reasons, other than having to cook for themselves. Why? But our dining facility definitely tries to meet all of the dietary needs of all of our students. But if by chance things aren't working well for a student, they can reach out to Residential Life or Residential Experience, and we will take it to our dining facility and work and see what we can do to make it best for them.
Right. There was a very specific question about bridge students. Are all bridge students invited to stay on campus, or only first-year bridge students? And so I'll jump in on that one. As was articulated in one of the co-presidents in one of the information sessions, all bridge students have the option to live on campus, and they've received that exception. So all bridge students, that applies to, not just first-year bridge students. There is another question that came up, and maybe this is a little bit of a clarification that I'll be able to articulate. But somebody was planning to not return to campus since all of their classes are remote. But recently they received an invitation to returning students regarding the campus page. And they were asking if that means that they have been granted the ability to live on campus. And so I think for clarification purposes, our goal was to get everybody to go through the Canvas educational workshop class, because that has valuable information. And so that is separate from if you have been invited to stay on campus. And so if you hadn't received any exception, but you did receive the Canvas page, again, please fill out the Canvas page because that is valuable information. But that is not how the process. We went through a committee and people were granted exceptions through the committee requests from that perspective. So the question that is about spring. So, Rochelle, can you talk a little bit about spring? Is their assignment going to naturally spill over to the spring? What's going to happen if they don't return for the fall? Will they have housing? Will they have to reapply for housing for the spring? Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Sure. Well, first of all, no, you will not have to reapply for housing. We guarantee you housing for the year if you're allowed to be on campus. Many students who have a fall and spring assignment who aren't here in the fall, if the campus opens in the spring, they will be able to move into their spring housing assignment that was assigned last spring 2020. In some cases, however, those spring assignments will not be available for them. I imagine that once everyone's on campus, as we do some more efforts to de-densify campus, students will be moved to different spaces, and that may impact where you were going to be in the spring. So as we get closer to that period, we'll be monitoring what students were expecting back. If they have if we initially had a spring housing assignment for them, if that assignment is no longer available, then we will be looking for an alternative or optional space for them. We will also do our best to try and make sure they have the same configuration of housing. So if they had a spring apartment assignment and that particular Antero 101 apartment is not available for them, then we'll be looking for another 4-person space where them and their roommates can live. So we expect that there'll be some logistics and we'll be doing some shuffling around, but the students won't have to reapply, they won't have to reconfigure, they won't have to do a lot of work. We'll just ask them to give us some time to let them know where we can place them, and then the work that we're doing, and then we'll go from there. I don't anticipate it'll be a lot of that, but some people's spring housing assignments will change.
Yeah, you just gave the Antero 101 person a heart attack right now, but thank you for that specific example. Just to clarify too, or to add on to your answer, it sounds like the university is going to make some decisions regarding spring semester sometime in October. Obviously, there's a lot of things that have been changing, and so we are waiting to be sure that we have the best information to make the best decisions for spring semester based upon El Paso County Health, the national trends, and also our own science team here at CC. So I think sometime in October, there will be announcements made regarding spring semester. But it does sound like we are doing our best to try to meet everybody's needs as best as possible. So I appreciate that. I think I hit as broadly all the topics that we had. I guess what I would like to do is kind of maybe go around, and if anyone has anything that they would like to add, maybe if there's sort of a public service announcement message they would like to say, or words of wisdom regarding your area or anything that you'd like to say, I'll just open the floor to folks to see if you'd like to add some additional information that might be helpful for either students or parents or even CC family.
Well, I can start. Certainly, it's been interesting since, say, July, that most of the questions that I get relate to COVID testing. But we are really always thinking about our students as whole people. And in terms of health and well-being, we think about you that way and want you to be thinking about yourself in that way. And so making sure that you're aware that all the different services and programs will still be available to you. Obviously, the Student Health Center is functioning and working with folks on healthcare, but the Counseling Center is also operating and available to you very similarly to the ways that it has been in the past. Most of those services are through a medium like this, sort of telehealth. But you can still contact the Counseling Center. Once you're on campus, there's still a counselor on call. There are still those resources that are available. Offices like the Wellness Resource Center and the Chaplain's Office and the Butler Center and the Career Center are all operating and here for you so that you continue to develop your whole self. And I would really encourage you, as you're planning to come back to campus, to be thinking about how you're going to be proactive for yourself in trying to keep yourself healthy and well as a whole person, taking care of your mental well-being, your physical well-being, spiritual, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll make that plug.
Okay. Thanks. If I could go next. I want to talk to the students and parents who are emailing housing and me directly and the other staff members in our housing office. We all have a return message that says we're getting a lot of emails, and we are getting a lot of emails. One thing that we know in our office when working with parents and students, that everyone has a very unique situation. So it's not easy for us to just, grab an email and shoot you a quick answer. It takes some research and some time to do that. So I would really encourage everyone who received the survey email last Friday to complete that. It's really we're asking a lot of questions, but that's the information that we really need to inform us of what your plans are. How we should look at your room assignment, if we'll be able to hold that for you for spring, creating spaces where if we're not able to, how we can accommodate you best in the spring if the college opens. We really need that information. I'd encourage everyone to do that until we are able to answer your email specifically and talk to you personally, which we'd really like to do. We're just really overwhelmed at this time and planning for students to come. And I think it'll really help us. And I think it'll help you too, maybe get some of that out, give us a clear, there's others on every one of those survey questions. So for instance, if you're not able to come on the 17th and 18th, tell us which day you're coming, and that will help us plan for you. If you are living off campus, we want to know that. We'd like to know where you're living so that we can keep up, the staff can keep up with you and make sure that we're attending to your needs as well. It's really a comprehensive survey that is going to inform so many different departments on this campus, like Edwin mentioned earlier, financial aid, and a lot of different departments. Please fill out that survey. We had a pretty good response to it over the weekend. If you haven't had an opportunity to do that, please take the time to do that so that we can all attend to your needs the best way that we can.
I would just like to say again, if you have anything move out related, if you need any type of information, is please email the ccmoveout@coloradocollege.edu. And would also just like to say that all the maintenance services are still up and running. If anybody has a work order or any need for any type of maintenance in their room or building, they can submit those at the front desk of Loomis, Matthias, and South. And they can also go to the Colorado College website through the facilities page and submit work orders that way too. and we'll get those done as soon as possible for you.
Great. Thank you. So if you have additional questions or if you didn't receive the move-in email, email your RLC that is responsible for your area, and they have a copy of that they could forward on to you. But even though, despite the fact that I summarized what that email is, it is much more detailed. There are specific links to how to register, to get tested, and to make the process go a lot more smoothly. And again, as we hope we've articulated, everybody we're excited to have everybody back. If you feel like you have a really unique situation, we are willing to work with you and find the best solution possible. Again, the information that we have provided is a large sort of overarching information that we are trying to provide and to make this move-in process, or actually this return to campus process, as smooth as possible. So thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to having you.